Hey, what's up? What's going on? Welcome to English with Dane, a podcast designed to improve your English. As always, I'm your host, Dane, and you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at English with Dane. Today's episode is a conversation with Cara Leopold, who helps professionals chat to fast-talking English speakers over coffee by improving their listening and speaking skills with movies. We had a great conversation about how to use movies to your advantage, the best way to use subtitles, how to choose appropriate movies, and more. So check it out and let me know what you think. Cara hosts a movie club to help students improve their English, and you can find the registration link as well as the rest of her info in the description of the episode. So let's get right into it. You are listening to episode 162 of English with Dane. Hit it. I think it's one of like the classic pieces of advice for English learners or for language learners in general is like, hey, consume as much like media as possible, right? Like movies, TV shows, all that stuff, consume as much as possible, subtitles, whatever. I was wondering if you had like any particular advice on the style of movies or the genre, or if there's something about a particular genre or director, even whatever it is, that makes for like a better experience in terms of language learning.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question because, just like watch movies. I mean, that's very generic advice. And, we can dig down and say, well, like which ones from which era, like, because if you go back far enough, the other weekend, we have this really strange channel in our like TV subscription bundle. It's called the Drive-In Movie Channel. And so I'm in France, so maybe other people in France have this channel. And like it only shows movies that are what do you call it, libre de droit, like copyright free. They're in the public domain. That's the expression I'm looking for. And so you see some really like crazy stuff, like a whole amazing range of movies. And last Saturday we watched this film that was a German silent movie, but apparently it's like one of the greatest examples of that type of German silent cinema. And it's like it's actually to do with the Weimar Republic, but like it's all through like metaphors and stuff. Really, really cool movie actually, with amazing decors and everything. But yeah, it's like a movie from 1920, and
Wow, yeah.
it's silent. And it's in German, so it's not even that useful for what. But like when you say watch movies, I mean that could mean that silent movies, that was a genre, like that was a type of movie. It's probably not very useful for our purposes these days, right? Because movies are a great way also to improve your listening skills and challenge yourself to listen to different accents and fast-paced dialogue. So, I mean, I tend to tell people to start with like what they're interested in. And I think that is a really good way to take this kind of advice. So like consume stuff, right? That's in English. Okay, great. But then people start asking what, and they get very stressed about like reading or watching or listening to the, like the right thing or like the magic thing or something. But really you just have to start with what you enjoy. So I mean, if you transfer what you like to consume in your own language into English, that's already going to take you far, simply because you're motivated then to watch it. That said, I do think there are some types of movies that are more useful than others. So I have a movie club, and we've experimented with watching different types of movies, and we've kind of figured out that we get more mileage because we do a lot of discussions. We need like a movie that has a certain amount of depth and a certain amount of things to discuss. So if we just watched action movies, there probably wouldn't be enough to say. Or if we just watched even some comedies, it does depend, but sometimes comedies, there's not really enough there in terms of like the character development or the story for us to have a really good discussion. And we've found that dramas work really well. Like there's a lot to talk about. There tend to be a lot of hidden meanings and messages. Although it's not true every time. Like we watched The Big Lebowski, which is a comedy, and that, if you start analyzing that, that movie is really, really, really deep, even though it doesn't even have a proper story. So, like, everything that happens in the movie is just a bit random. But if you sort of peel back the layers, and especially I get a lot of help by going on YouTube, and I find resources for my students, and there's some really amazing channels where people analyze movies and they go really in depth with explaining, you know, what's going on in the movie. And yeah, that's a film that is like super deep, even though it looks like a really stupid movie
I
on
love that
like a
movie.
superficial level.
I love that movie so
Yeah,
much.
it's amazing.
I
That's
think
just
it's
like
great.
your opinion, man.
Yeah, I swear I use that. Like I think that so often, you know, like I mean,
Mm.
the classic, it really the rug really tied the room together, you know, those things, or like Market Zero,
Yeah,
or
the
those kind of.
premise is so stupid. You know, his rug gets stolen. There's a case of mistaken identity. Like it's just so silly. But actually, the movie has led to the creation of a religion, Dudism.
Right.
So I mean, it's it's super deep, but that's more of an exception. So we've found that, you know, dramas tend to be good, and especially because they have like a lot of dialogue and the characters get developed a bit more
Mhm.
deeply. So there's more language to analyze and learn from, and there's also more to discuss. So, you know,
Yeah.
as a general rule, that can help.
I always a lot of my students, and we talk a lot about like TV shows or TV
Hmm.
series, and one thing that I've found helps as well is I tend to tell them to maybe shy away from like really fast paced shows, maybe like
Hmm.
off the top of my head, like a Grey's Anatomy, right? Where you're like, oh, it's like a medical thing. I like that kind of stuff. But then
Hmm.
you're watching the show, and so much of it is them like walking down the halls, talking at an incredibly fast speed about medical things, and you're like, oh man, this is like super stressful because like
Hmm.
as a learner, you that there's like a frustration that arises when you can't understand everything, and you're kind of like forcing yourself to try to catch everything, and
Hmm.
that's just like unrealistic. I like to
Yeah.
recommend documentaries sometimes because of like they're descriptive and they're slow paced, and
Yeah, there's so yeah, it's also looking for a way in, isn't it? So like you don't want to discourage yourself either. I mean, I don't have the diagram. I have like a Venn diagram. I can send you it, and it kind of to help you find the right movie for you. And it's basically a mixture of like what you're interested in, what you need. So with the example of Grey's Anatomy, you know, somebody who's going to work in the US to work in healthcare could actually be very useful for them, you know, for their professional
Mhm.
life. So what you're interested in, what you need, and like at your level as well is the other thing to consider. Um, so yeah, like you say, for somebody like starting out watching movies and TV series, yeah, documentaries are definitely more accessible. Sitcoms often can be a bit more accessible. Yeah, I guess depending on the dialogue and depending on the context. Um, and yeah, but I mean, you know, if you need medical language, legal language, whatever it is, I mean, there could be some series that are useful for you. And I don't know, if I watch like hospital dramas in English, like yeah, I learn a bunch of new words because I don't work in healthcare.
Same.
But for somebody who already knows those terms, like who's an English learner but is familiar with them, it actually might be okay. But I also know people who are not in the healthcare domain who really enjoyed learning English through watching Grey's Anatomy. So,
Mhm.
you know, again, it comes back to like motivation and level and needs.
What
So
about like period dramas, like things where the language that's used isn't really the language that you'll encounter
yeah,
throughout like
that's
your
really
day to day?
interesting. Yeah, because we've watched quite a few of those in Movie Club. We haven't watched one for a while, but we watched a couple of years ago, we watched Sense and Sensibility. The Remains of the Day, that's actually the setting of that is more recent because it's like World War II period. And then we watched the adaptation of that book. What's it called? Whose name I can't remember now. Anyway, we watched a few, yeah, like period movies. Sense and Sensibility was probably the one that has the most like old-fashioned language. So I mean, I had to say to my students, like, we always work on particular scenes from the movie, so some of that came up, and I even did a YouTube video where I sort of translated the language from Sense and Sensibility into modern English, because even the name of the movie, so the movie is based on a Jane Austen novel. It's about two sisters who are very different, who are both like looking for love. So one of them is very sensible and rational, so she's the sense part of the title, and the other one is very romantic and sensitive, and so she's the sensibility part. But like in modern English, we wouldn't say sensibility, we would say sensitivity. Because actually sensibility nowadays is more to do with being rational. So like the language is actually, so like a modern day title would be Sense and Sensitivity. But in Jane Austen's time, you know, the words had slightly different meanings. So I think that can be interesting, but yeah, you have to be aware that you might, some of the language might be less useful.
A question that I get often from students is, and this kind of fits into this arc of like, people are always trying to find like a miracle cure, a miracle solution. They're trying to get to that one thing that is going to really help them take off. And I always tell people to run away from that. Like if someone's promising a miracle cure, or like this is the thing that's going to help your English get to that, I'm always like, be skeptical. So I get asked a lot if there's like a magic combination in terms of original language and subtitles. Like, should I watch it in English with English subtitles? Should I watch it in English with Spanish subtitles? Most of my students are Spanish speakers. Should I watch it in Spanish with English subtitles? And I was wondering if there's any particular combination that you think works really well in terms of like target language versus native language in subtitle and original language, or if it's just more of a question of level, right? If you have like a higher level, maybe you'll want no subtitles or subtitles in the language of the movie. Like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it is an important consideration. I think there's a few things going on here. I mean, so some people, if they're at lower levels of English, or I don't know, if I think about languages that I can speak, but like that are a bit rusty or not very well, like, so my Spanish is a bit rusty. Even so, I would probably use Spanish language subtitles. But let's say like I wanted to improve my schoolgirl German from school, right? I don't think I wouldn't put the subtitles in German, because my problem is I just do not know enough German. Like it's too like old, and I didn't really learn that much even doing 5 years at school. So in fact, really, if I wanted to improve my sort of low beginner German, I would probably choose other resources and not movies, because I don't think they're a good.
Right.
I think there can be a waste of time when you're a beginner or low beginner, because you would have to put the subtitles on in your native language, and then I question how useful it is. So I think people will get more out of watching movies if they have the audio and the subtitles in the same language, because then you're not sort of getting distracted. But because that's a weird combination, to get audio in one language and then like see another language on the screen. Like I think that's really splitting your focus and concentration. I mean, even having the audio in English and the subtitles in a way, that is sort of splitting your focus a little bit, because
like your brain can't
are you
not
reading,
read it. Like I'm sometimes I'm forcing myself. I'm like, okay, let's try to not read subtitles for the next 10 seconds. And then I just always fail. Like before I know it, I'm reading again. And sometimes what I hate is that it'll ruin the punchline, because you'll read before you'll just read it first. You'll read it first, and then it'll get, and then like it's the audio is kind of lagging, and you're thinking like, oh, I think it would have been better if that I actually had the actors or actresses delivery of the line instead of just reading it.
Reading it, and you spoil it for yourself because it's not as good in your head as how they say it. And all this time that you're reading, you are missing what's happening on screen. So there is a trade-off. Like you can't, you are going to have your focus split a little bit. Something I learned last year on another podcast from someone who works a lot with Japanese students is it can also depend on your native language and the traditions of like dubbing or subtitling in your country. So in Japan, people are used to seeing movies like with English audio, but the subtitles are in Japanese. So in fact, people have kind of learned to listen to the English audio and follow with Japanese subtitles. That's just the way it's done. They're not dubbed. Whereas, you're in Spain, I'm in France. These are two countries with a big tradition of dubbing directly into the language. And I don't know about you, but in France, like the same voice actors would dub the same Hollywood actors. So like, I don't know, Bruce Willis has like his French voice, or Eddie Murphy has his French voice. It's like always the same person. Or when it changes, people are like, oh man, that's so weird. That's not the same voice actor. So I think it can also depend on your the situation in your language. So people get used to different things.
That was going to be my next question. Actually, I was going to say exactly that. I was like, here in Spain, like we dub everything, right? And it's there's like but even in TV, right? People will refuse to watch TV series. Like people won't watch The Simpsons in English because they know Homer Simpson is this voice, Marge is this voice, and it's this classic actor from TV or this classic guy. But here's one that I always fight them back on is the person that dubs, let's say Bruce Willis, is also dubbing a different Brad Pitt, who's also dubbing this guy. And I'm like, it's great that you have classic voices that you associate to characters, but isn't it weird that they're also this guy and this guy? And I find that so weird. And actually my friends who have really good English here, even though they were like born and raised here, are the ones that from a young age were exposed to the original version, and then they did a subtitle thing. But I get it. Sometimes you just don't want to read subtitles, like I'll watch a foreign film and I'll always watch it subtitled, because come on, like it's the acting. For me, it's you half of the acting is the intonation, is the whatever, and that's the language that if not, it just gets lost in translation. Fantastic movie, by the way. Lost in Translation is one of my favorites. But yeah, and I wanted to ask, but you mean you answered it for me, but I wanted to ask what the dubbing culture is like in France, but I'm assuming now it's the same as in Spain.
Similar to Spain, and quite a few of my students are Italian, so I think it's a similar dubbing tradition. But it's nice in some ways because, like I was saying, we often watch movies that are a bit older, so maybe from the 90s or the 80s. So sometimes, like, my students actually saw the movie at the time, maybe dubbed into their language or at the cinema with subtitles. So it's kind of cool because then at least they're familiar with the story. So they're not kind of starting from scratch, when they start watching it. And I mean, that's another really good point about movies, is kind of preparing yourself a bit before you watch them, at least having like a basic familiarity with the story. And that doesn't have to mean watching the dubbed version, but even just watching the trailer or just reading like a short summary of the plot, like it can really help before you go in, so that you're not going in cold. You're going in with like a little bit of information, because even in English sometimes, you start watching a movie and you're like, what's going on? Who are all these people? Like,
totally.
It's confusing.
That happened to me not too long ago when Tenet came out, Christopher Nolan's movie. And I went to the movie theater with my partner, and we got there, and I think we got there like 2 minutes into the movie. Like we were running a little bit late, and we kind of just came in and sat down. And I mean, we didn't know that was actually the beginning and that was the first scene, but we came into the movie being like, oh, like, and it's like the first scene where they're like in this like opera house type thing, and there's like shooting, and we're like, oh no, we missed it. So we actually just like went online really quick on our phones, like dimmed the lighting, went on our phones, and we're just like, okay, let's just read a little bit of what's going on, because we went in cold. We had no idea what the movie was about, and we did that on purpose. I think part of the experience, I think, with movies is, I mean, obviously if you're a native speaker or you're well versed in the language, or something that I really enjoy is coming in knowing nothing about the movie and just responding to it with a completely open mind. But sometimes if you're watching a Christopher Nolan movie, especially like a Tenet, Inception, one of these, it gets a little sketchy. But I think that's a super good point. If you watch something that you're already familiar with, it takes some of the stress out. I always recommend, like, if there's a movie that front to back, where all the dialogue in your language, watch it in English is you know what's coming, you know what's being expressed, you know like the characters, you know their motivations, and it'll be a quick way, like a shortcut into kind of digesting the equivalence and how we would express that. Because I think so often people are translating, right? And it's something that people, I think students have in common. They always say, I want to start thinking in English. I want to stop translating. And I think, yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's the common goal, because people spend years of their lives like getting educations to be able to translate books and movies and stuff. And we're just trying to do it on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's super important what you said about watching something you're already familiar with, to see how that sentence is constructed, to see how these moods are expressed, to see how these feelings are again expressed in the language that you're trying to learn,
that you're actually learning. And you know, also it's a chance to maybe see things that they missed in the dubbed version. Sometimes I get the impression they take some shortcuts, or it's the same when like the subtitles are in French or Spanish, like they don't translate everything. Or they sort of paraphrase or some, you know, so you are missing things for sure. Like it's not the same.
Especially with I find that a huge difference in the humor, like between English and Spanish, is that English relies so heavily on puns and like language-based jokes, whereas in Spanish, you can't, like, translating a pun is impossible almost. Like it has to, like, all the stars have to align just for like that one pun to work in the different language. So oftentimes there's I'll be watching a dubbed movie in the theater here, and I'll laugh, and only a few people will laugh because I'm reading the subtitles. I'm going, oh, that just didn't hit, that didn't land, because they weren't able to translate it coherently, and like that's fine. I mean, that's a limitation, I understand, but I think there are quite a few things that are lost in translation. I wanted to ask you, I mean, this is always like a super hard question to answer, but do you have any favorites, any favorite movies from the last years, or just those movies that kind of stuck with you growing up?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I feel like I don't keep up so much with like what's out at the cinema, because in movie club I'm watching like one new movie every month with my students, so I kind of concentrate on what we're watching, you know, for the club, rather than what's like out there. Maybe it would make sense then to take a movie that we've like watched together in the club, and I think the one that I think has really stuck with all of us was last year we watched movies starring Bill Murray. So we watched Lost in Translation, which you mentioned, and we watched Broken Flowers, and then we watched Groundhog Day. So, you know, huge classic. And I think that is a movie like The Big Lebowski. It works on so many levels, and on the surface, it is just a romantic comedy, really. I mean, there's a big romance element, but there's also the time loop element. So Bill Murray travels to this small town that he hates. He's a weatherman. He has to do a report on the groundhog, because there's this tradition, and I didn't realize this is a real tradition in the US. Like the weather, something to do with the groundhog comes out of its hole, and depending on its shadow, it's like 6 more weeks of winter or an so early spring. Like, so this guy, like, he really resents being there. Phil, this weatherman played by Bill Murray, like, he hates this small town, he hates the people, he feels that he's above that. He's hoping to become a big shot weatherman somewhere else, and he ends up trapped in this small town in a time loop. So he wakes up every day on Groundhog Day, February 2nd. So in the place he hates, on the day he hates, with the people he hates, the groundhog he hates, and you know, and he can't get out. So it's really amazing to watch the character's evolution as he sort of goes from, like, you know, at the start kind of manipulating people, and then getting really depressed, and then kind of eventually like climbing out of the hole and actually making the most of his time. And yeah, it's a movie where like different religions have told the director, like, oh, this is our movie. You made this movie. This movie is about Judaism. This movie is about Christianity. Or this movie is about Buddhism. Like it resonates like universally. I mean, And it even helped one of my students, like she said her dad was quite worried. I don't know if he's retired now or he's planning to, but he was a bit worried about like, okay, when I stop working, like what am I going to do with my life? What's going to happen? And as we watched Groundhog Day, we realized that there's an answer in this movie. You know, what do you do when every day is the same? Retirement can look like that. And actually, Phil, when he kind of transforms, you see that he finds ways to, for example, he builds new skills, he helps people. And, you know, he fills his days beautifully by the end, even though he's still stuck in the same day. He's living his best life by the end.
Yeah, I remember he like learns how to play the piano super well. He does like ice sculptures. And,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I haven't seen that movie in a while, but I think that's such a good movie. And I'm honestly like I'm a big sucker for like time loop or time travel kind of movies, even though when like at the end, like I always find like plot holes and I'm always like kind of like talking shit
of course.
about it. But like there's something about the time loop and the time travel or the alternate realities type thing that I really like. Interstellar for me is like one of my favorite movies of all time. And it has that component. I like space stuff and like voyage kind of things. And that one kind of incorporates, it has a bit of a cheesy message, but I think it lands. I think it hits pretty well. I wanted to ask you more about your movie club. How did that come about? How do you do it? And how do you watch movies together? Do you watch them in bits? Are you like streaming? How do you do it? Because that sounds really cool, and I think that's an idea that people could get a lot from.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can try it at home. Definitely. Yeah. So it's a funny story. So it started about like this time 3 years ago. So during the pandemic, in fact. So I sent like a message to some past students and some students who had bought one of my courses, just suggesting that we do a movie club for like a month, right? And we were going to use the movies that were in the course, movies on the run. So it's based on like quotes from famous movies. And I thought, well, this could just be good for a month while we're all kind of in lockdown and looking for things to do. So we started in April 2020. And like now it's like almost April 2023 and we've watched 26 movies. So yeah, wow. It came out of the pandemic basically. So one of those stories where something like good came from a difficult situation. And yeah, it was really nice to be able to like connect with different people across the world, like in that sort of difficult situation. About how it works. So we do we spend a month on each movie, and we didn't do this in the beginning, but eventually we decided to like go for 3 months at a time and choose like themes. So right now our theme is movies by Clint Eastwood. So we're watching like either movies he stars in or directs or both, because he often does both. And that's quite nice because it gives us the chance to kind of compare the movies and like maybe watch how someone's films have evolved over time or whatever. There's an initial phase where my students have to watch the movie, obviously. And then we have a couple of weeks that are more like focused on language development. So I send them scenes from the movie to work on, and they work on their listening skills and catching lines of dialogue and recording themselves pronouncing it. And then we also have a week where they're working more on speaking, so kind of talking about different clips. And then the whole time we're like on WhatsApp together, discussing the movie. That's mostly at the end. We kind of really go more into the discussion. But yeah, we already start sharing reflections in the first week after we've seen the film. And yeah, there is a watch party element that we kind of used to have, haven't really been doing recently, but yeah, we used to do watch parties where like everyone would watch on their device at home, and then we would create like a separate WhatsApp group where we would react to the movie in real time. So that was really funny. Like been looking through the old messages from those groups, and they're really silly. But it's quite nice as well,
like a live tweeting element.
Live reactions. So sometimes the students would ask me questions, but then they would also just like react. And we used a lot of emojis because it's hard to write something super long when you're trying to watch the movie at the same time. So that's how it's a mix of kind of language improvement, but also like connecting with others and sharing your ideas and hearing other people's ideas about the movie. And I think for me that's been the most surprising and rewarding part is just to see like how much my students notice, how much the club members notice, and they notice things that I completely miss. And that's where it's really nice to discuss a movie together, because when you combine everybody's observations and ideas, and especially when they come from different cultural and language backgrounds, you get a really whole new appreciation of a film. Even when you've seen before and you think you like know it all, there's always more to uncover.
That's so the case. Like I'll often talk to friends because like I'm a big movie buff, and like I'll talk to friends, my brother and people, and they'll say like, oh yeah, did you notice how this was just like a veiled critique of this? And I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even.
Yeah, like they totally missed that.
Jesus, like that went over my head so fast. Like I have no idea, and it's funny how I'll notice little things or see things, and I feel kind of like I'm in English class from like in high school. We used to like read books and be like, okay, what's the theme? What's this? What's that? Like, is there foreshadowing? And then watching movies more than once is great, like because you really start to pick up on things that you're like, oh wow, like they just, I don't know, like I'm not thinking of any movie in particular, but I'll say like, wow, they talk about this book at the beginning of the movie, and that book is exactly this, like the story, the plot of the movie, or like little Easter eggs that you find here and there. And so I think it's super valuable to watch movies with other people, and because you'll definitely all pick up on different things.
Oh yeah. Like I was just looking at like Lost in Translation, a comment from a student, and how, if you watch movies superficially, you maybe don't fully appreciate them. And you kind of think, well, that was a waste of time, because like Lost in Translation, it just looks like a lot of Scarlett Johansson sitting around in her underwear in a hotel room. But again, when you scratch the surface, you realize that like that's almost kind of deliberate. She's stuck in this hotel room really high up above Tokyo. She's kind of cut off from Japanese culture and life, and she's lost in her own life. You know, it's all symbolic, and it all has meaning. You have to look for it a little bit, and that's what's so rewarding as well when you watch a movie.
What I love about Lost in Translation, and we're running out of time here, but like I'll say this real quick, is that I love when movies are about friendship, and it's like between a man and a woman, and it's just like about a friendship, and it's like a friendship that came about in a time where they kind of just both needed each other, and like they didn't know, and it doesn't have to be a romantic thing all the time. And
that was so clever of Sofia Coppola to not have them jump into bed together, because she could have just done that and it wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah, but it would have cheapened it, right? It would have made it just like, okay, it's one of these stories. But I think friendship stories are told less days than romantic stories. But I think they're often more common than in life than romantic stories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's like, I don't know. Nowadays, there's like a weird thing where like when I talk to younger friends or students, they say, well, they claim, I'm not gonna say they say, they claim that they don't have time or they don't want to commit to movies because they take too long. And I don't know if that's something more to do with the dwindling attention span.
I blame TikTok.
Yeah. And people will say like, no, I don't have 2 hours to watch a movie, but you have 2 hours to watch like 5 episodes of a series that you're watching.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just like segmented in a smaller, more digestible format.
But,
what I like about movies as well is going to the movies is such a treat, just because if you're watching a movie at home, you might pick up your phone and check something.
That's true.
Or you might get a call. But if you're at the movies, you feel like, okay, I'm committed to the movie.
Especially the price you have to pay now to watch a movie at the cinema.
How much does a movie ticket cost in France?
Oh,
well, where are you, in Paris, or where are you?
No, I'm in like provincial France, so it would be a bit cheap. I haven't been to the actual like movie theater for a while, but I'm guessing like minimum maybe 9 or 10 euros, unless you've got some kind of subscription or some kind of discount that you can apply. So it's an expensive form of entertainment.
Plus popcorn, plus like a drink.
Oh yeah.
Whatever,
it can quickly escalate. Yeah.
I'm all about popcorn. I can't even handle it. I'll have I make popcorn at home to watch movies, but not like in the microwave. Like I do it like in the.
Oh wow.
I actually make it. I get like the popcorn kernels, and I put some oil in, and I just like time it on the stove, and I have my whole method.
I can't remember the last time I had popcorn. I don't really eat it even at the cinema. Only occasionally, but yeah.
Did you know, here's like a little interesting, like a tidbit.
Yeah.
I studied audio engineering and stuff, and there was like this whole module that we did about like cinema, like sound and
Right.
scoring and stuff in movies and how they mix everything. And there's actually something called the popcorn floor, which means you have to, as a sound engineer and as a mixing artist, let's say for the sound in movies, you have to account for the fact that people are going to be eating popcorn. So
What?
people around you are going to be eating popcorn, and you as a spectator are going to be chewing popcorn, which has a pretty loud, let's say, sound in your own head. And
Yes.
so as a mixer, you have to account for that like popcorn
The
floor of
popcorn
noise.
effect.
Yeah, so if it's crazy because you'll go to a movie theater and you'll be eating popcorn like loudly and and like it's pretty loud again in your head, but you'll hear everything that's going on in the movie.
Oh wow.
Whereas if you're at
Okay.
home, if you're eating popcorn at home, it's way harder to catch everything. And
That's
I just think that's so silly, but also like, of course, yeah, it's practical. You have
yeah,
to
no,
be, and
that
they call it the
makes
popcorn floor.
that's
It's
so
like
interesting.
the white noise of popcorn in the theater and in your own head from your chewing.
I've learned something new today. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely yeah, when we watch movies that are streamed, I mean, we're not getting the same kind of quality, whether it audio or visually, than what you get in the cinema. And it is so lovely to be in that kind of cocoon, for a
Mhm.
couple of hours where, yeah, like no one's going in, no one's going out. Like it's, you're there, and you get that full cinema experience that you don't really get at home. But I must admit, like with the pandemic and everything, and with doing the movie club, it is really convenient for me to be able to, stream all this stuff at home. And yeah, I haven't really been back to the cinema much. Yeah, we went to see the latest what's his face? Oh my God, this is like my partner's favorite director, Wes Anderson movie. We went to see that at the cinema, but that was ages ago. So
Right.
yeah, we
I mean,
really need to get
I
motivated.
haven't seen last Wes Anderson one I saw was Grand Budapest Hotel, but I know he's done stuff after that.
Oh yeah, he's
But Grand
done
Budapest Hotel
loads.
was really cool. Do you have a favorite director as well?
Um, I would say, yeah, Wes Anderson is one of them. As for others, not 100% sure, but
Mhm.
yeah, he's one that I really appreciate, really like his movies.
I think I'm pretty basic. I'm like basic guy. I like Tarantino and Christopher Nolan are cool directors that
Mm,
I mean whose movies I've just enjoyed the most, I think, out of
yeah,
last year. Like James Cameron, I don't know, it's too much of a commitment. James Cameron, and then like Steven Spielberg, also incredible, but it's just like it's too. It's I read this critique the other day on Steven Spielberg's latest movie, The Fablemans, which was up for Oscars and stuff, which is
mm,
like it's like a 2 hour Coca-Cola commercial.
right.
And I thought that was like a really spot on way of of explaining like his style, you know.
Mm,
It's but yeah, he's I mean, yeah, how can you not like him?
yeah.
Before we finish up, I would love for you to tell
Mm,
people where they can find you, how they can access your movie club and a little bit of
sure.
that so they know what's up.
Yeah, so like the best place to find me is probably on my website. So that's leo-listening.com. And yeah, that's where you'll find more information about Movie Club. You can also sign up to my newsletter and get my free guide, which is called Understand Movies in English, and loads of other cool stuff. I also post quite a lot now on LinkedIn. I've been doing that for a few months, and yeah, I'm sharing some cool stuff there so people can come to LinkedIn. Cara Leopold, my name. Uh, you'll find me. I think I'm the only one. Yeah, I also have a YouTube channel. It's been a bit dead lately, but I might try and revive it and talk more about the movies that we're watching in Movie Club. I'm going to try and commit to that, doing like reviews and stuff, even though it makes me nervous because I'm like, I don't have like a film studies background, but I can bring that unique perspective from me and my club members. Like, did we enjoy it? What did we talk about? What new English expressions did they learn? I think that's a really cool contribution that we can make to the discussion, even if like we're not film experts. Like we're, you know, we have our our reasons for watching too, and our own reflections. And the movie club is open like 3 times a year for enrollment. So I don't know when this is going to go out, but there will be an enrollment period in April 2023. If you missed that, don't worry, I will enroll again probably in the summer for September to November, which would be like the last round of this year, which is so crazy. And then like the next one will be in early 2024. It's mad.
That's crazy to think
the year is already going, even though we're still like in the beginning part of the year. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. And yeah, guys, I'll link her stuff in the description of the episode. I'll link to her website and stuff. So if you don't remember what it is, you don't have to go back. Just go into the description of the episode and you'll find the link to her website and to her LinkedIn as well. So thanks again, Cara. And
perfect.
We'll talk
thanks,
soon.
Dane. That was awesome. All right. Take care. Bye.